Hello and welcome back to the Football Hipsters podcast. I am your host, Kris. I've got John and I've got Tom. We're missing a Drew, but we're still here for you. Keep it tuned. This is your football fix for the week. Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. We are back to talk more European action as we always are at this time of the week. We never let you down. Well, we do sometimes, but generally we don't let you down. You are very welcome to this humble parish. I am your host, Kris. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm a man down and we will be for a couple of weeks, unfortunately. I do have Tom and I do have John, though. So good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Hello.
And just to explain, we haven't locked Drew in the basement. We also haven't stuffed him full of Bundesliga magazines and thrown him off a balcony. He's still very much with us. He's working quite a lot at the moment. He's got a lot going on personal life-wise with work, so he's going to be on a bit of a break. Tom, I think he's away. It's mid-October, isn't it? He's away until?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that's how long he's away. So if we can't negotiate a contract to get Ross Dunbar full time, then we'll get Drew back. Only joking, Drew. Of course, we'll have you back, Drew. But I'm sure that he'll be keeping an eye on our pods. And as usual, if you do have any questions for Bundesliga, use the Bundesliga hashtag, and Drew will be sending me plenty of notes. So don't panic. Right, let's get on with this week's show then, and we are going to start with updates from France this week, and we'll start in Liga.
Right, hello. As usual, I'll be hosting this little section. So, Kris, Liga is a little bit strange this season so far, and we'll get off with Lyon, who I think people were thinking would do well this season, but suffered a defeat and a surprise one at home to Bordeaux.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise because Bordeaux, I think I said sort of pre-season, I fancied them to have a decent season, and we'll come on to a certain chap that you and I both love, John, in a minute. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise result. Bordeaux sporting the either lovely or hideous third strip that people were very torn on, the purpley pinky one for those of you keeping tune on Kit Watch. But yeah, they come out with a 3-1 victory, and it was very much against the script. I think most people thought Lyon would come through this. They were one up inside 2 minutes, Lyon, in fact. Kalulu with the goal, and all seemed to be going swimmingly. Lacazette was back in the side after returning to fitness, and all was going well until Malcolm, which always amuses me. He is Brazilian, for anyone wondering. He's not a sheep farmer from Yorkshire, but he popped up with the equaliser from a free kick on 33 minutes, half-time score at 3-3. And it was very much a second-half red card that turned the game. Maxime Gonalon, the captain of Lyon, was sent off for a pretty poor challenge, I think it's fair to say. At best, that's being polite. It was very high and very late. He was dismissed for a straight red card on 67 minutes, and so the game turned. And a player I rather like, I must admit, Gregory Sertic got the headed second goal for Bordeaux on 71 minutes. And John, the Phantom Menez, he
returns.
He returns. He's still got half an ear, no thanks to Didier Ndong. But yeah, with a rather Petr Cech-esque hat on, he strode onto a loose ball, and with the aid of a deflection, it has to be said, looped home the third in the 90th minute. And wheeled away in celebration. So it's a great result for Bordeaux. It's the first time Lyon have lost in their new Parc de l'Olympique stadium, or Stade de Lumière, whichever you prefer. So it's a very, very good result for Bordeaux, a result that catapults them into the top four. And Lyon, on the other hand, will sort of look at this and think, how on earth did we lose? Because nobody really predicted it.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that. When I was just sort of scouring through the results, I kind of just looked past it, and I think I read it as, Lyon beat Bordeaux, and read it the other way around. But yeah, bit shocking. Next on to probably the... I don't know whether to say Monaco was the surprise team of the season, because I think we all know they had a good side, but the way they're playing at the moment, looks like no one else can keep up with them, really.
They are really, really impressive. I have to be honest. I thought they'd have a good season. I think I said in the preview with Rich, preview pod, that I thought they would improve. And having Falcao back, for all his faults, in Liga, he's probably going to get goals if he can stay fit, of course. And they've added Valery Germain coming back from Nice. Midfielder Bakayoko, we mentioned on, I think the question we had last week was a player to look out for, and Bakayoko is absolutely superb. He's a monster of a midfielder for Monaco, and he's been brilliant. And they've got Fabinho, who I'm sure you both have heard a little bit about recently, who got a goal in this game. A rocket, by the way, if you haven't seen it. It's an absolute peach. And he's really he was linked with Real Madrid, I think, in the summer, as well as other clubs around Europe. And he's stuck around at Monaco, and he's proving to be a really good find, as is Kamil Glik, who, John, you'll know well. He also got on the score sheet in this game. Gilbert Sidibe against his former club, and Traore with the other goal. Late one back for Julian Palmieri, who's a player I must admit I do quite like. But Lille were just blown apart, and they were 4-0 up after 71 minutes, Monaco, and completely in control. 2-0 up at half-time, and Fabinho's goal came just a minute after the break, so it was pretty much game over early on. And Lille are known for being quite sort of hard to score against, quite tight at home, and they don't give up many goals. So for Jardim's men to rock up and just completely dispatch Lille in such a comprehensive manner surprised me slightly. But I'm delighted to see how well they're doing, because we all want a title race in Liga. It's a myth that we all love PSG winning every week. We do want a title race. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get one.
Yeah, they're not... Don't get me wrong, they're not by any means running away with it. It's just that their early form has been very impressive, and PSG looked a little bit lacklustre. So I think like you said, it's exciting because it seems like there will be a genuine race this year. The other team that's sort of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you want me to very briefly just mention PSG?
Yeah, sure.
They're not in our list of games, but they drew 1-1 with St Etienne on Friday night, and no one really saw that game coming. The only thing I've got to really say on PSG, I mean, they conceded a last-minute equaliser, so these things can happen, but they were really poor. Lucas Moura put them ahead with a penalty, but they were just so punch drunk. Cavani was on the bench again. Teehee. Ben Arfa up front doesn't work. Jose Rodriguez is still finding his feet. Di Maria was on the bench. Whether it was with a view to the Champions League game on Tuesday, maybe, but it's been a really poor start for PSG, and at the moment sitting 7th. We all know they're not going to stay there. Of course, they'll kick into gear, but I can't help but think they should have bought another centre forward. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say the sort of the one other team that's had a surprising start to the season, or perhaps surprised a few, and maybe with their latest signing as well, just before the window closed, is Nice, and my old friend Lucien. Had a nice result against Olympique Marseille.
Indeed, they did. Lucien Favre, he's really impressing a lot of people, John. You'll be delighted to hear some really good feedback in not just the French press, but throughout Europe. I think Andy Brassel, who you'll all be familiar with, he's been waxing lyrical about the things that Favre is doing in Nice. And as you say, old friend Mario popped up, Mario Balotelli, free transfer. And the one thing, as you all know, John, that you'll get with Balotelli is he is a very good footballer when he fancies it, and he fancied it tonight. And he is box office, and he was fantastic. The best part of this game, he scored 2 on the night, for those wondering. And the winner coming late from Willem Cyprien, who's a new signing from Lens. Thauvin and Gomis scored for Marseille. The best part of this game was Balotelli scored inside 7 minutes of his debut from the penalty spot. And if you haven't seen the footage, do check it out, where Bafétimbi Gomis is trying everything in the book to put him off. I mean, it was like cricket. He was sledging him. He was in his ear. The arms were going. The hands were going. He was right in his face. It was pure intimidation. And Balotelli, in his sort of enigmatic way, just strolled up, stroked it into the corner, and just stood there and just took in the applause. And Gomis sort of casually sloped away. So it is typical Mario Balotelli. He scored a cracking header in the 78th minute to, at that point, equalise Gomis's penalty. So it was 2-1 Marseille at the time. Made it back 2-2, and then Cyprien's long range cracker sealed the derby victory. And Nice continue to impress. And yes, your man Favre, John, he's got Nice joint top of Ligue 1 as things stand.
Yeah, really impressive. He was great when he was at Gladbach, and obviously the way he left and the fact he hadn't won so many games in a row, and he walked away from the club when the club were quite happy to keep him on, and the fans were as well. I think it shows the measure of the man. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how Balotelli can do, because he's such a good footballer. He just needs, I don't know who it is, but someone's got to get the right attitude out of him, and you'll have one of the best strikers in Europe. I've got no doubt in his ability. But
agreed. I think he'll get 15, 16 goals a season. I genuinely think in this Nice side.
And I'd be surprised if he's even halfway fit yet as well.
Oh God, is he ever? I mean, he likes the lifestyle off the pitch. I don't think he'll ever be. But he has got very good genetics. Like even at Inter, at AC, he was always a fit, sharp footballer. So, as you rightly say, it's all about attitude with Mario. So let's hope it carries on.
I'll tell you what about that penalty thing though. Gomez should have just done his goal celebration up towards Balotelli, because that would put me off my dinner, let alone penalty. So
it would have been a better option, I think, because honestly, if you haven't seen it, it's so much. It's worth a look. I mean, it's just like I thought really Gomez should have been booked. I thought it was proper intimidation, tactics, but it was visual intimidation. It was really evident what he was doing. So, yeah, I must admit. And Balotelli just sort of glanced at the referee and did the sort of the raised eyebrows, as if to say, "You gonna let this carry on, or should I just put the penalty away?" And he did the latter. So, good result for Nice though. And Marseille, well, they're Marseille, aren't they? 14th, 2 defeats, a draw and a win in the first 4. It's kind of typical Marseille, isn't it? They're still a mess.
Well, after that routing speech about Marseille, any Marseille fans, yeah, enjoy that.
Sorry.
Do you want to give us the rest of the results from around the league?
Yeah, sure. So we obviously mentioned PSG, so we'll move on to the Saturday games. Lorient, oh, for God's sake. I'm actually quite glad we don't do Mighty 90 anymore, because it would be quite depressing at the moment. 4 defeats on the spin for the Mighty Lorient. They sit bottom and have no points. Jolly good. 2-0 defeat at home to Nancy was not ideal. At Benacer, on loan, he signed for Monaco, but it's gone back on loan to Nancy. He scored the opener, and Dale got the late clincher on the counter attack. So not good for Lorient, and a bit worried. I'm not going to lie, a bit worried. Bastia beat Toulouse by 2-1. Dial and Braithwaite equaliser for Toulouse. It's a little bit more money in the coffers to his charity. And Bengtson got the winner with 8 minutes to go for the Corsicans. Angers got their first win of the season, 3-1 over Dijon, who certainly couldn't cut the mustard in this game. Samaritano got another goal this week, but he actually put them in front, Dijon, but they surrendered goals to Jeju and Chaikin Doi, you'll remember from last season, their player of the year, and Toko Ekambe. If you haven't seen that goal, do look it up. It's a ripper. Billy Ketkeown from Fone, Danny's favourite, he was sent off for 2 bookable offences, as was Mane for the visitors. Guingamp and Montpellier played out a 1-1 draw. Morgan Samson scoring for the second time against Guingamp in his career. And a young lad who is worth taking a note of his name if you don't know him. He is the Guingamp centre forward who goes by the name of Coco, Marcus Coco to be exact. He's only 20. He was born in Guadalupe. That's quite unique, isn't it? He's a real talent. He got the equaliser, so keep an eye on that name. And finally, the Sunday games, Nantes 0, Metz 3. Really good result this for Metz away from home. Nantes are in trouble. Sorry, Janzeb, but you know it's true. Mevla Erdink, you'll remember quite well from lots of clubs.
Yes. Yeah.
He got a hat-trick, which was nice. So good result that for Metz, newly promoted side, currently 3rd. Wow. And Rennes, Rich will be happy. 2-0 win for them. Said and Percic got the winning goals over Cannes. And Rennes quietly going about their business as well.
Lovely stuff. Have you got a game for next week for us? I'm going to spring that on you now. See if you remembered.
Yeah, I did remember.
He didn't. He's stalling for time.
No. I genuinely did remember. But the thing I couldn't decide was, do I go for the obvious one, which is Marseille-Lyon? Because, I mean, that is the obvious standout fixture next Sunday night at 7:45 on BT Sport in the UK, I believe. But the main reason I was kind of stalling is because I really like the look of Monaco against Rennes. I know it doesn't leap off the page, but Rennes are, say, in decent form, and Monaco we've talked about already. So I'll kind of cheat and give you 2, but the obvious one is probably Lyon and Marseille on Sunday night in the Velodrome.
All right, I'll let you get away with it then.
Thanks.
Is there any news from Ligue 1, or is that it for this week?
Not a huge amount, no. The Marseille takeover continues to rumble on. It sounds like they have struck a deal, but it hasn't really been confirmed, so that's kind of status quo. It's not going to be the guy that we thought it was going to be. It's going to be somebody else now.
So no Bielsa return then?
No, it doesn't appear so. I'm frantically trying to look up the guy's name, but I think he owns a baseball team from memory.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Is it St. Louis? Is it St. Louis Rams?
St. Louis Rams,
No,
maybe.
that's Kroenke. Anyway,
No. St. Louis Rams is football, not baseball. Yeah, like,
is it? Okay,
as in throw ball, as you call it.
throw ball.
Yeah.
Whoever.
We're terrible with American sports.
Oh God, aren't we just? It's a good job, really. We're terrible with really French sports, the way I'm rattling on here. But no, basically the takeover is set to go ahead. But here we go. I found it. It's a guy by the name of Frank McCourt. He's the former owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, so nothing to do with Rams at all.
Yeah, he's not a very nice man, but there we go.
There you go. So he'll fit in at Marseille quite nicely there. So it looks like he was quoted as saying being part of the Olympique de Marseille project and helping the club achieve success both on and off the pitch would be an honour and a privilege for me and my family. So expect him to rack up, it all fall apart and he'll be gone within a year probably. So there you go. So looks like that's going to happen, but it hasn't been done yet. So we'll that's the only real news. Other than that, you've got French sides in action in the Champions League and Europa League this week. Yep. But yeah, other than that, not a lot is going on right now.
Wonderful. Well, that's League One all wrapped up then.
Splendid. Right, I shall come back to my hosting duties then, and I'm coming straight back over to you, John, because we're going to take a little trip into Italy and find out how Joe Hart has been doing. It's this week's Serie A. All right then, John. So I made a little plug there about which game we're going to focus on first, because of course Joe Hart is English. Therefore, as an English-speaking podcast, we have to send 54,000 scouts out and witness his every breath and find out how he's getting on. So I hear it was kind of a mixed day for him, because a lot of his mistakes, the one big mistake that he dropped in this game, but he did make quite a few decent saves as well. And is it Joe Hart or John Hart? Do you want to explain that one?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember his ridiculously long name that he's got. Isn't it like 4 middle names or something?
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, I can't
certainly
remember.
Confused the team sheet.
It was very strange because it said John Hart on the team sheet, and yeah, he's got lots of names. Anyway, the result finished in the end 2-1 to Atalanta. So Joe Hart didn't get a victory for his first game. He actually played pretty well. The problem is, and the thing that's been highlighted, is that his one error he made in the game unfortunately led to a goal. And it was the Atalanta equaliser. Torino took the lead from Falque. Really good free kick, scored. They were a little bit short up front because Belotti and a few others were injured out of the game, and Falque and Maxi Lopez were actually playing up front, and neither of them were really fully fit either, so they were a little bit struggling there. Even Valdefiore, who's just completed his move, was chucked straight into midfield. But very good game. Unfortunately, straight after the goal, Atalanta went up the other end of the pitch, won a corner, took that, and Joe Hart came out for the ball. I thought he'd made the right decision because he looked like he was just going to get a hand to it and punch it out. In the end, it wasn't a punch, he more just sort of palmed it, and it only went 2 yards and fell straight to an Atalanta player, and Masiello tapped it in for the equaliser. So yeah, not his finest moment. Up to that point, he'd made some very, very good saves, and after that as well, he made some really good saves, really brilliant. Couple of really good double saves as well, getting down at his near post and then getting up for the rebound shot. So I think, he'll be disappointed with that, his mistake leading to that one goal. But other than that, I don't think he did anything else wrong in the game. There was even one point where he was like a good 10 yards outside of his own box, playing the ball about the way you sort of see Manuel Neuer do, and there was obviously lots of shots of that and like hashtag Pep are you watching and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that was just before he'd made the error, so he got a lot of stick. The second goal was a penalty. Di Silvestri making a really bad challenge in the box, and Joe Hart. I don't think you can really blame a keeper for missing a penalty, not saving a penalty. He went one way and the Kesse went the other, who, by the way, looks quite a decent player. I'd not really seen much of him before. So overall, I think his performance was good. He likes to do better. Sinisa Mihajlovic was full of praise for him. It's obviously a very big deal still for Torino. I'm not sure they've ever had an Englishman play for them before. They may have many, many years ago, but not that I can think of. If anyone listening can remember, please do tweet us. I think the last England international was probably just to play in Italy was probably Paul Ince, someone like that.
Yeah, or Ray Wilkins was. Paul Ince probably is the most recent one.
Probably the most recent, isn't he? Yeah. Him or Gascoigne maybe.
Yeah. Gazzy, yeah.
So it's still a very big deal in Italy. To have an England international, because as much as we obviously sort of berate our team, England are still internationally sort of not feared as much when you're playing them, but revered to a certain extent. So it's still a big deal for Torino, but yeah, disappointing result for them. I don't think you can really blame Joe Hart too much for losing the game, but it's going to be a long season, and I'm sure every single tiny thing he gets wrong will be picked up on by the media.
God, yeah.
But all the plus points that he does, none of that will be highlighted for him, sadly, anyway.
We'll obviously keep a heart watch or heart time. We'll come up with some terrible pun, I'm sure. Speaking of goalkeepers who didn't have a particularly good day, that brings us nicely on to Wojciech Szczesny and Roma. God bless him. Didn't have the best of days, particularly from crosses. But that wasn't the story, was it? Because there's a certain little legend who he just doesn't stop, does he? Roma looking for a hero, and they got one in the last minute.
Yeah, it was a really weird game because it was that game and a few others. There was some really bad weather, but we'll get to that in a minute. It finished 3-2 to Roma in the end. So you think, very exciting game, and all right, maybe Roma were a little bit lax in it. They went one up. Mo Salah, Diego Perotti, who started the season brilliantly, picked out Mo Salah running at the back stick for a header. Roma could have scored so many goals in this game, just like a ridiculous amount of chances. Salah could have had a hat-trick, Dzeko could have had a hat-trick. It's the one thing they're really guilty of, is not taking all their chances. El Shaarawy as well. And so it looked like Roma were just going to cruise through. But Samp have started the season quite well, and there was Muriel, who is doing much better this season. I'm still not sure about him. There was so much hype around him when he first got to Samp, and it just he's never really found his consistency. He made just a brilliant run and a lovely bit of movement, and I'm trying to think that he was corner of the 6-yard box, maybe. The angle that he's at is very tight, the finish, and it's first time hit that he finishes akin to like Bergkamp did. It's set without the control first for Holland. That finish.
Against Argentina, yeah.
It's like that, but he took it first time. Szczesny, to be fair, could have done better, but it was very quick. Like literally, I thought at first that it was a mishit cross, but it was like, oh no, he really did intend to do that. So it was a very good goal. And then Quagliarella got the second. Really nice assist from Ricky Alvarez, of all people, to put Samp in front. But then, got to half time, and there'd been really bad weather all in through that region and through the Genoa region as well. And the half-time was 80 minutes long because the rain was so bad and there was so much hailstorm and stuff. The pitch, they just had to wait out. Got to half-time, Spalletti made some changes, and on came Francesco Totti, soon to be 40, not quite yet. Finally, he made a few chances, nobody's taken them. And then he picked the ball up I think he was on the edge of his, maybe the halfway line, something like that, and just did this sort of amazing no-look 40-yard ball for Dzeko to perfectly run onto, scored a good goal. It was good touch and control, good finish from Dzeko. Still had a bit to do, but the ball from Totti was amazing. And he set up a load more chances that still weren't taken, and then right in the dying moments, Dzeko won a penalty and upset Totti to score the winner in the 93rd minute, I think it was. The eternal man for the eternal city really, really was impressive, and obviously the stadium went absolutely nuts. Gianpaolo for Samp was not happy at all about the decision. He did not think it was a penalty. He was going absolutely crazy. And I think Samp will be a little bit disappointed because they had plenty of chances in the game and they probably should have come out of this with something. But yeah, Spalletti making the right decision, keeping Totti happy. How long will he play on for? I have no idea, but some of the things he did in the game were just amazing to watch. Still got it.
As long as he wants to play, that's what I say. Yeah, what a legend, and yeah, good game. I must admit, I did wonder why it was such a long break, and you've just identified why. I did remember reading about the weather. I didn't realise it was that long though. Wow,
It was really, really
nice.
bad, yeah.
Nice mention for Sunderland legend Ricky Alvarez there. Good stuff like that.
I like that. Sunderland legend, not Inter Milan legend.
No, Sunderland legend. Did he even ever play? I don't. Barely. Anywho, our final game of our roundup then. Good news for us at long last. Pescara won, Inter Milan 2, but that was not the whole story, was it?
No, but first 3 points, I should say, on the board for De Boer and his new look Inter. Very exciting. We got some debuts. João Mario making his debut. Rejigged systems, sort of playing a 4-2-3-1 now. Still question marks about the fullbacks, but started well, made lots of chances, and just typical Inter. Didn't take any of them, and that basically was the story of the first half. Pescara made a few attempts on goal, Handanovic making a few decent saves, but second half was when it really came to life, and it was Pescara who took the lead. Against the run of play, they only had 1 or 2 chances, but your boy Barbeck, is that how you pronounce it?
Jean-Christophe Barbeck, yes.
That's the one, yeah. He kind of shinned it a little bit, I must admit, but he got on the end of a cross, took it first time, good finish, just good movement in the box. Not too hard, I suppose, when you're up against D'Ambrosio, but yeah, less said about him, the better. But yeah, really good finish, and Pescara were really good in the second half. They moved the ball around really well, confidently. They've, from the start of the season, the way I've seen them play, they don't look like they're going to be scared to go forwards. They will concede goals. There's no doubt about that, but they will push and push and push, and they will try and score. And in I think it's Verde, in particular, the number 7. They've got some really exciting players, and Barbeck looks decent for them. So they've definitely got some promise. In the end, it was Mario Cardi who came to the saviour of Inter. First goal was a header from a nice. Ava Banega cross, who was superb throughout. He really settled so quickly at Inter, looks fantastic. And then last minute, right near the end of the game, in the 91st minute, I think it was, again, Banega trying to create something, a little deflection off the defender, and it just fell for Icardi in the box, and he was just quickest to react, just sealing all 3 points. So we're a bit fortunate. Should have taken our other chances, to be honest, and were it not for a couple of really good saves from Handanovic as well, could have conceded 1 or 2 more. But starting to look more in the mould that De Boer wants, pressing a lot more, passing out from the back a lot better. He also really went for it as well when we were 1 down. Medel coming off, Banega sitting deeper in midfield with João Mario and bringing on Eder. Just generally more options as well, like Jovetic. Jovetic came on as well, and he may have now triggered a clause to actually make it a permanent deal from Man City. I'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, just looking a lot better. But for Pescara, they'll be disappointed they didn't get anything out of it, but I think they might actually have a chance of staying up. If they can keep up those kind of performances, they've got a really good chance of staying in the league this year, because they're very exciting to watch. So regardless of whether they do or not, their fans will definitely be entertained.
Yeah, man, I love Caprari up front. I've just got I don't know what it is. I just really like his work ethic and his commitment. If he can score goals, I think they'll be all right. The Dolphins. So yeah, okay. Just before we go into the other results, do you want to just let us know about that information on Jovetic while we're talking about it?
So it's not confirmed yet, but apparently he's now made enough appearances or minutes played, I assume it is, that he's now triggered a clause in the loan deal from Man City, so it would be €13.5 million, I think it is, the complete fee. Whether that has to be paid in one go or not, I'm not sure yet. We're still trying to get reports on it, but that seems to be it, and it seems to be that it's going to be a permanent deal, so he should officially be an Inter player, whereas at the moment obviously he's just down as being on loan, but that looks like that's all going to go through.
And I wonder if he'll be an Inter player to then be sold, because he's been left out of the Europa League squad, hasn't he? And,
yes, so it's quite possible that might be, they can get some money back. There's a lot of clubs in Italy that do want him. Fiorentina, for one, who definitely did want to take him back.
Absolutely, yeah. It's keeping him fit, to be fair, isn't it? That's the big issue. Okay, let's have the other results and scores from the other games then.
Well, as I said, really bad weather throughout Italy. Genoa, Fiorentina was postponed completely, had to be abandoned. The weather was even worse there. Hailstones really bad. Just you couldn't run out on the pitch. Juventus beat Sassuolo 3-1. Higuain making his full debut, scored on 4 minutes and then on 10 minutes. No surprise. Oh, and Pjanic as well also scored on his full debut. So that team isn't remotely terrifying. And they also rejigged it a little bit. Players like Bonacci are coming in and just resting Barzagli because they've got Champions League midweek, and resting Dani Alves. Just obscene. Anyway, on to Palermo, who we'll have a little bit more about in a minute. They lost at home 3-0 to Napoli. Hamsik and Callejon with 2 goals there. Bologna got a 2-1 win at home to Cagliari. Bruno Alves getting his first goal for CAG. Lazio was a 1-1. Stefan De Vrij, who lots of people thought was leaving Lazio, ended up staying in the end. He got the equaliser there for Lazio. Milan losing 1-0 at home to Udinese. Really bad result for the Milan fans. They were not happy at all with that performance. And new boys, Crotone, they were doing all right. You thought they might get something. They got an equaliser back against Empoli, but ultimately lost 2-1 and had a man sent off as well. Desane, one of their centre-backs. I think it's going to be a long, hard season for Crotone. They really do look very short of the sort of level you need to be in Serie A. So I think they might be going straight back down very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And quickly before we move on in the old news section, because just for those listening, we're not going to bother with tables. It's still too early. News on... hang on, wait. No. Another sacking for Palermo? Surely not.
Yes. It only took 3 games. Balladini is gone. De Zerbi is now in... De Zerbi is now in charge. Mutual agreement or not, Zamparini was, no, he had to go, Balladini's wrong for us, and Balladini was complaining about the transfer policy, and not officially not the first sacking of the season, of course, because Mancini was technically, actually I suppose Bielsa was for the 2 days he was Lazio coach, and then quit as he was on the plane on his way there. Yes, new manager at Palermo, no shocker, there we go. And the only other bit of news is Sassuolo should be on 6 points. They, however, are not, because we forgot to mention last week that their game against Pescara, who they beat 2-1, Sass had an ineligible player fielded. They missed the cut-off by, I think it was 15 minutes. To announce him as a player on deadline day. They didn't realise this. He came on the 65th minute, something like that in the game. I don't think he had particularly too much impact on the game itself, but because of that, a 3-0 win is awarded to Pescara, but I'd imagine this will go on for a little bit because Sass are appealing the result. Eusebio Di Francesco just saying that, the way they look at it, they've got two wins already this season. He refuses to look at the table because he said it's not the real thing. But that will drag on for a little bit, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, not the real thing. That's one way of sitting in denial, isn't it? Okay, and finally, before we move on, have you got a game that's worth peeling the eyes for next week?
There's a little game at the San Siro, Inter Milan entertaining Juventus. I'll be watching from behind a sofa and a cushion and covering my eyes a lot because it's going to be horrible.
And I'll be hiding with you telling me how it's going, not watching probably. Yeah, no, we all know I'll be watching.
Yeah. But if you want to watch a game and you're not an Inter Milan fan or you're not a masochist, Fiorentina Roma should also be quite good, which is on afterwards.
Oh, tempted. Or just go double trouble and watch them both.
Yeah, back to back on Sunday. There's 5 o'clock kickoff. That is on Sunday. The Inter Juve game.
Lovely job. I shall be tuning in. Right, okay. Thank you very much, John. That's all move us on from Italy then. And speaking of tuning in, we're going to take another trip now and tune into Spain and see what's been happening. It's this week's La Liga. Right then, Tom. Let's see what's been happening in La Liga. We're going to start with probably the story of the weekend for obvious reasons, which will become apparent in a moment when I ask you what happened between Barcelona and Alaves, because I'm assuming this was just a routine 7-0 victory for Barcelona.
Yes, so 8-0 actually, but no, it wasn't. Newly promoted Deportivo Alaves went to the Nou Camp and thought, now, you know what? We're not going to be one of those teams that turns up at the Nou Camp and thinks, right, let's just stop them from scoring. We're actually going to try and put that round thing and the netty thing a couple of times, and they did. And more than that, they stopped Barca putting in the goal more than once as well, and ran out 2-1 winners in the end. They played quite impressively. Davison, who's up front for them, who's quite a tricky player when he wants to be. He certainly wanted to be that night. He's on loan from Levante, and Levante would have watched that game thinking, well, why wasn't he like that for us last season when we got relegated? Well, he turned up and scored the first one. It was an excellent flicked-in finish from across. Barcelona did get back in the game. A typical non-Barcelona type performance was met with a non-Barcelona type goal. Corner came in, Mathieu, big bulky defender, who's somehow still playing for Barcelona, headed in the equaliser. And then in 64 minutes, Ibai Gomez, who came in from Athletic Bilbao, who, when I spoke to Rob...
Sorry, Tom, did you say Ibai Gomez?
I know, it's the greatest name ever, isn't it? Because when you say it, Tom, from now on, can you say Ibai Gomez? Because that's
Ibai Gomez.
That's how it should be.
Marvellous.
Yep, no. And as I was saying, I mean, the guy we interviewed, Rob Hort, who's Athletic Bilbao, the UK Supporters Club on Twitter, he was really upset about losing him, and he said that a lot of fans were, and clearly it's for good reason, because he scored the winner, and it wasn't slightly fortuitous. Mascherano, who's been ever so consistent for Barcelona, absolutely shanked, or as he listened to on the Arscast Extra earlier today, shonked. A clearance away, and it landed at Ibai Gomez, his feet, and he slotted it in the bottom corner. Well, that was awful, wasn't it? But so that finished 2-1. And but I'll run you through the actual lineup, because I should mention that Suarez, Iniesta, and Messi all were rested. Did come on in the game, but the lineup for Barca was Silasson, Alex Vidal, Mascherano, Mathieu, Digne, Rakitic, Busquets, Denis Suarez, Neymar, Alcacer getting his debut, and Arda Turan. So you'd expect them to beat any team, and obviously they've rested players like many teams did over Europe in light of their Champions League commitments against Celtic in midweek. But still, you'd expect them to win. But honestly, it's amazing what losing Messi does, and Suarez.
Isn't it just? Yeah, I saw a stat actually that if you'd have put £2 on Alaves pre-game in English money, you'd have won £243 back. For the odds that Alaves were to win that game. Mental, absolutely crackers.
I was so confused, listeners, that when Tom put in the chat 2-1 Alaves, I thought he'd mistyped and put Alves, and I was about to say he signed for Juventus. I don't understand what's going on.
Be a team all on his own.
Amazing.
No, it's quite a shocking result. And I suppose the next one to focus on is, I mean, easy to shock, I don't know, but Valencia. Valencia, the crooked tail of Valencia. At one point, you thought they got themselves out of trouble. They were playing host to Real Betis, for those who didn't know. And Betis went into a 2-goal lead and were flying. Valencia, battled back. They got the equaliser and then shot themselves in the foot just for a change.
Just for a change or not. This is their third loss of the season so far. They are bottom of the table, and they just do not look like they've... It's as if there was no pre-season whatsoever, and they just thought, now you can all go on holiday and we'll come back and just do what we've been doing. And all that stick that Gary Neville got, honestly, it appears as though the problem is far deeper than simple coaches in this side. Ruben Castro got, as obviously, Real Betis played and Real Betis scored, so Ruben Castro obviously was on the score street twice, in fact, and he got the winner in the 92nd, but his first one came in 38 minutes, and then Valencia do what they always do and shot themselves in the foot. Enzo Perez, the guy that was brought in to replace Banega, who is now doing brilliant things, as John says, at Inter Milan, who they never should have let go in the first place. Yeah, got himself sent off for a 2-footed challenge. And then old boy Joaquin, who used to play for Valencia back in the day, got the second. 3 minutes it took to get 2 goals for Valencia. Rodrigo, who's really been a player that Valencia need to step up now and again, because they brought him in from Benfica and he just hasn't cut the mustard at all, or cut the Dijon, as Kris would say. And then Garay got a goal on his debut. I should say that him and Mangala both started in their new look defence. Garay was impressive, and Mangala was Mangala. In the game, they said it was an impressive signing, but I think they might have to watch a few more games before they start regretting those words. And that looked as if it would be 2-2. But as I say, Ruben Castro, 92nd minute, after listening to Terry Gibson on Sky Sports going on about how poor Real Betis have been after scoring the second goal, got the winner. And honestly, those white hankies have never been out fast enough.
Yes, not good for Valencia. No sign of it changing either. And our final game, Sevilla. Weirdly, Sevilla, they're one of these teams that they either do like nothing, and it's sort of a dull nothing game, or they're just crazy. And once again, this was a bit of a crazy game, or certainly the last few minutes were anyway, as they played host to previously high-flying Las Palmas.
Yeah, it was actually an entertaining game to watch, and I was watching it as I prepared for the pre-drinks for the night's entertainment with a few of my mates, and I was explaining to them how that Las Palmas who had started so well. I mean, they were top of the league, the highest goal scorers, 9 goals, and they certainly came out of the blocks against Sevilla in the same way that they have all their matches so far this season, quite impressively fast, and had a couple of chances in the first few stages, and got the opener with Tanner, who's a guy that is quite an underrated winger in senses, or attacking midfielder, and he runs in from the left hand side and whips in a shot, which you say from the inside of his boot, that curls around to the right hand side of the keeper and goes in the bottom corner. And it was an excellent goal, and you think that Las Palmas, it's their season, clearly, that they're looking to do new things and try and build on the success that they had last season. And he gets to the 88th minute, and Vitolo does what he has to do as a player when you get into the box. Get yourself between the ball and the defender, which he does, and Big Ass and goes down. And Big Ass was just perplexed by the decision. It took me several replays. I've watched it back again and again. It's still difficult to see what the contact is to bring him down. He does make a meal of it, and as you would as a losing team in the 88th minute. But he gets the penalty, and then Sarabia, who came in from Getafe last season, took the penalty and scored it. And then 5 minutes later, Carlos Fernandez, they had a corner, massive scramble in the box, and they win it. So clearly a massive culture shock for Las Palmas, thinking they're going to get their third win on the trot, and they just couldn't hold the doors.
Yeah, I have a theory on the penalty, by the way. I think the reason it was given, I think the forward fell over his Big Ass. Yeah, I'll just let that. Thanks, I'll just let that one. Anyway, moving on. It's not quite as good a name as Arse, Fabian Arse, or Arse as they start pronouncing it. Or I think there's a few, isn't there? There's a certain German who I won't bring up his name. Quite a special one. And wasn't there a player called Brian Penis once upon a time? I'm sure there was, Dutchman. So there you go. Send in your favourites, listeners. Send in your favourites. Anyway, back to La Liga. So that wraps up the sort of initial games. What else went on, and who else got what?
So my boys Espanyol again lost the lead, 1-0 up away at Sociedad through Piatti. A great effort, similar to Tanner's goal for Las Palmas actually. Willian Jose, who they signed from a Colombian club but was on loan at Las Palmas last season, got the equaliser, and Javi Fuego got sent off for a second yellow in the 90th minute. Atletico Madrid won convincingly, surprisingly. Maybe not so, because they're playing Celta Vigo, who really have looked a shade of the side they were when they had Nolito. Koke got one, Correa got one the last minute, and that was dispersed by a brace from Griezmann. 2 headers. It's unbelievable what that guy can do with his head for such a short player. Real Madrid won 5-2. It could have been quite different, though. The 5 goals initially were absolutely fine. Ronaldo scored on his return 6 minutes in. Danilo, Brazilian right-back, Sergio Ramos, Pepe, and Modric scored an absolute belter. And then sort of defensive meltdown from Madrid after the 5th goal. Oriol Riera scored a good header. Then they had a penalty saved, which actually they scored. If the referee had left on 3 seconds of advantage, there would have been their second goal. But he blew for a penalty, and the penalty was then saved. And then they scored again in the 78th minute to make it 5-2 from David Garcia, another brilliant header. So Real Madrid will have to look at that and just say, we need to shut down our defence for the last 20 minutes again. Because if we're not 5-0 up against a team like Osasuna, then it could be quite a different story. Villarreal looked back on track, got a 2-0 away victory at Malaga. Jaume Costa, the left-back, scored a good goal, and Sansone, the Italian, who John will know a lot about, who they signed from Sassuolo, also got a goal just before half-time. Sevilla we've done, Barcelona we've done, and Sporting Gijón run out 2-1 victors that took them into the top four for the first time in God knows how many years. They beat Leganes, and Nacho Caceres and Duje Chop, who's having an excellent season, got their 2 goals, with Diego Rico scoring in the second half for Leganes. Valencia we've done. Granada lost 2-1 at home to Eibar, and Paco Gemes is really struggling as manager as Granada. He was struggling at Rayo last season. He's struggling again this season. Pedro Leon scored the opener for Eibar. Cravets scored the equaliser in the 76th. Couldn't hold on to the victory, and the victory was given to Eibar in the 90th minute with the last kick of the game through Sergio Enrique, who's having to deal with the loss of Borja Baston for them last season, who was on loan from Atletico, who's now at Swansea, who scored loads of goals. So he's a lot of pressure on him to do the business, and it looks like he is. And the last game was Deportivo, still suffering without Lucas Perez and Dole trying to do a job, but they just can't score. They lost 1-0 at home to Athletic Bilbao. Raul Garcia with an absolute screamer, and it was brilliant, and I do encourage you to go check it out.
Yes, that was it 40-odd yards?
Yeah,
that he hit that absolute ripper. Yeah, goal worthy, winning any game, even if it did cost me a bet. Damn it. Right. Okay. Again, we're not going to bother with tables because again, 3 games in. We'll start doing tables after. What should we say? 6 games, 24 games. Yeah. We'll do it after 6 or 8, something like that. Listeners, write in if you're desperate to hear the tables. Let us know. I'm sure you'll be fine. Right. Any news at all this week?
Yes, there is a bit of news, and it's a bit of like banterish news, really. Ronaldo has obviously been in the news. He's always in the news. A little bit of a tiff with Xavi, that Barcelona, Real Madrid sort of type. Xavi basically came out and said only a fool could have played football and not recognised Cristiano as an elite footballer, but he has just had bad luck to be around at the same time as Leo, as in Leo Messi. So Ronaldo, being himself, replies with, I'm the most searched for player on the internet, I am. Those that want to appear on front covers or promote things speak about me. What does it matter to me what Xavi says? He played in Qatar, or I don't know. He's won everything, but he's never won the Ballon d'Or. I have 3. So there you go.
So
He's
humble,
modest
isn't
self. Yeah.
Oh dear. God bless Cristiano. I'm sure we'll send him a present one day and he won't like it and send it back and claim another one. Anywho, what game is worth keeping an eye on next week?
Yeah, so next week I've gone for Athletic Bilbao hosting Valencia. If Valencia lose this, you really have to put them down as relegation candidates because it's quite incredible. Bilbao are obviously in the bottom 3 of them before the last round of fixtures. Obviously they won, so they're looking in much better shape, so they'll want to continue that form, but it's really, really looking bad for them at the moment, Valencia.
It seemed like a club that is a little bit rotten from the inside out, doesn't it, to be honest? But hey, the good news is my team in Spain are having a blinding... Oh, wait, no, they're not. Mallorca, bottom of the Segunda division. Splendid. Never mind. Bring back Albert Ferrer, that's what I say. And Samuel Eto'o. Anyway, moving on. So we will leave Spain there for another week, and this is the time where I get to butcher Drew's segment. We're going to go all things German next, and it's this week's Bundesliga Roundup.
Hello, it's me again. Yes, probably not a familiar voice for this section, but I shall be hosting the Bundesliga section, and Kris has let me out of my cage, so here we go. Probably the glamour tie of German football. Can you get glamour in Germany? It's all pretty boring, isn't it? Drew's going to kill me. But Schalke played Bayern. Kris, what happened?
Yes, I think we'll call it Dash Glamour. That's what we'll call it from now on. God, that's awful. Yes, so Schalke Bayern Munich. I did watch this game, so luckily I can talk about it a little bit. Well, I watched most of it anyway. It was quite a well-matched and even game for long periods. Schalke actually impressed quite a lot in this game, and you did wonder, could this be the time where they might just take points off Bayern Munich? Oh, how silly we could be. They land up in a kind of a 4-2-3-1 formation, as is the norm these days. Havertz has moved back to right back. They had Naldo and Nastasic at the back. Nabil Bentaleb, Spurs fans will be familiar with. He partners Stambouli, also the debutant from PSG and ex-Spurs as well, in the midfield. And this front three that they combined, Choupo-Moting, Leon Goretzka, Konopin Anker, that Tommy will be familiar with, and Klaus-Jan Huntelaar, who's still around, was causing Bayern Munich a few issues, I think it's fair to say. But they created a bit. Huntelaar went close, but couldn't get the goal, and wouldn't you know it, Bayern struck twice late. Robert Lewandowski had a mixed evening, I think it's fair to say. He missed, I think he's got more stick than he should have got, if I'm honest. He misses kind of an open goal, but it's a ball across the box. It flicks off Thomas Muller, and he's coming onto it, and it sort of hits his knee and goes over the bar. I don't think it's that bad a miss, because he doesn't get a clean contact, but open goal. However, on the 81st minute, only 9 minutes to go, he takes advantage of some slack defending and drills home Bayern Munich's opener, and then with less than a minute to go, breakaway goal. We see it all the time. Luckily a bet winner for me, Joshua Kimmich, thrashing the ball across the goalkeeper, Ralph Fährmann into the net, and Bayern Munich win again, just for a change. But the talk is that Carlo Ancelotti is sort of got them playing football, and they're happy playing football again. They seem to be sort of relaxed and sort of just impressing game by game. And the changes they made. There was a debut for Renato Sanchez, but he was quite poor on the day, and his substitution kind of paves the way for the comeback with Kimmich coming on, and Vidal and Costa also came off the bench. So it's quite a strong lineup, it's fair to say. And along with Juventus, you've got to think they're probably the two favourites outside the two Spanish teams to win the Champions League, I'd say.
Yeah, certainly there was up there. And I mean, it's after what was said about Ancelotti and the rumours around problems with his league form, I think he's putting that to bed slowly. So that's is it good to see Bayern winning? Is it?
Yeah.
Not for football hipsters, it's not.
No.
But anyway, we move on to a game which I have a lot of vested interest in, because we've got many players I like. Sort of a little told you so moment for me, but I'll let you describe that, Kris. But also a very special debut.
Yes, absolutely. Well, two kind of special debuts in a way in this game. So Borussia Dortmund, amidst all of this, the fans are not going to travel to, we're talking, of course, about RB Leipzig, Red Bull Leipzig, whichever you prefer, not in Germany, of course. They hosted Dortmund. It's their first sort of home game in the Bundesliga. Obviously, big fanfare, 42,000 of people crammed in, and it was a really surprising scoreline. Dortmund didn't take their chances, and they paid for it. They created plenty on the day, plenty of opportunities for likes of Castro. Goetze started, Andre Schürrle missed a good chance, Aubameyang was a little bit off his game, and wouldn't you know it, in the very last minute, Oliver Burke, who we'll come on to more a little bit later in the podcast, he popped up on the man who signed from Nottingham Forest, 50 million quid, with a delightful cross to the back stick, and Naby Keita.
50 million?
15, not 50.
Oh, okay.
Christ. But Naby Keita, your little friend there, from RB Leipzig, RB Salzburg, nipped up with his debut goal, and he rather enjoyed it by the looks of the celebration. Obviously, big things are expected of him. He is quite the talent by all accounts, and he actually came from Hipsters in France, which I only found out recently this week. But he looks a talent, and as does Burke. It's a hell of a cross to find him at the back stick, and massive scenes, real celebration. And do people like RB Leipzig? Not a lot, but in a weird way, yeah. I mean, they are quite hipster, and I think if the Red Bull name wasn't attached, nobody would have an issue. It's purely because of the money. But then when you've got teams like Hoffenheim and Wolfsburg, I mean, is it really any worse? I'm not sure it is. But poor defeat for Dortmund, and I can't confirm or deny if that's the reason why Drew has suddenly gone missing from the podcast.
Oh, what a shame. Anyway, moving on to our next game. Germany tried to do their best example of the Sevilla Espanyol performance here with goals galore. How do you describe the Mainz versus Hoffenheim game?
Crackers, to put it politely. 4-4, as you rightly say. Just bizarre, so bizarre. 3-0 to Mainz inside half an hour, and you thought, yeah, game done. Paulo de Blasis scoring twice, really gifted Argentinian, and John Cordoba had a decent season last season, and he popped up with the third 3-0 after 27 minutes, and you're thinking, yeah, this is a comfortable victory for Mainz, and everybody's going away happy from the home stadium. But Sandro Wagner, who I think Drew's tip for decent things since his move in the summer, got one back just before half time, and you thought, maybe springboard potentially. However, Ostonali made it 4-1 right before half-time. So once again, you went, okay, fine, 4-1 at half-time, game over, game, set and match. However, a very controversial sending off for Busman for the home side, and it was controversial. I'm not sure it's a sending off, if I'm honest, but he gets a straight red card on 57 minutes, and the game massively turns. And 2 goals inside a minute from Mark Uth brought the game back to 4-3. And wouldn't you believe it, Adam Shalai popped up at the 84th minute to make it a spectacular comeback, and 4-4 it finished. So crazy game. Doesn't really help either side given the sort of positions again in an early table, but just all round really good entertainment, terrible defending, brilliant attacking, sunny day. It just had it all.
Nice. Well, I don't like Jala though. Scored against Austria in the Euros. Don't like him. Oh well. Moving on. Can we have the rest of the fixtures, please?
Yes, you can. I shall focus very briefly on something that Drew has brought up, unless you want to come back to that. Do you want to come back to that? Yeah, we'll come back to that, actually, because that involves a preview pod that Drew mentioned, but we'll look at the other results. So we had Bayer Leverkusen beating Hamburg by 3-1. Bobby Wood with another goal, the American youngster there for Hamburg, putting them in front. But a lad who I know I'm going to butcher this signing, I think it's Podjan Palo, I think it's how you pronounce it, a Finnish international striker, scored a hat-trick for Bayer Leverkusen. 3 really good goals as well. He looks a player. And 3-1 turnaround victory for Leverkusen there. Wolfsburg and Köln kind of stank it up. 0-0 draw. It wasn't the best of spectacles. I watched it, sadly. Didn't I pick a game to watch? Jesus. Ingolstadt losing at home to Hertha BSC. It's a good result that for Hertha. Vidar Ibisevic, the newly named captain, getting them off and running after 8 minutes. And Julian Schieber with a late clincher on 86 minutes. Darmstadt beat Eintracht Frankfurt, so no joy for my big man up front, Alex Meyer. Sirigu getting the late goal. I think it's a cross, but make up your own mind when you see it. I think it's a cross, but still, last-minute winner. And John won't be happy because Mönchengladbach, they went in front through Torgan Hazard, who's having quite the start to the season. But then, as has happened quite a lot in the past when they've gone away to Freiburg, they lost. 3 goals in the second half, 2 from Philip and 1 from Nils Pettersson, who you might remember missed quite a key penalty in the Olympics for Germany, unfortunately for him. But he made no mistake in this game. And the points went to Freiburg. So that was
We're saving ourselves for the Man City game.
Oh, naturally. Yeah, naturally. In fairness, Freiburg were really impressive on the day, and they're a team I'm keeping a close eye on. So, good result that for them. And then the only other result was on the Sunday, Werder Bremen, who we'll touch on in a second. They lost at home to Augsburg. They went ahead through Aaron Johansson, the American centre-forward's goal. But Goluelu, I think that's how you pronounce it, equalised from a corner, and Staffelidis got the winner for Augsburg with an absolute thunderbastard of a free kick. Do look that up. It's a real cracker. And Serge Gnabry's debut ended in defeat for Werder, unfortunately.
Oh dear. What a shame. I actually hope he does well there, personally. But anyway,
he ran the game. To be fair, he was very, very good on his debut. But yeah,
good. He deserves the game time. So is there a fixture for next week that you'd like to see? Drew would like to see.
Yes, he's picked one out. He's also just asked me to mention very briefly on Werder Bremen. Yes. He was saying in the preview pod, they lost obviously Vestergaard in the summer. They conceded 8 times in the opening 2 matches, and they've only found the net once. So he's just sort of saying, is it too early to worry, or is it a sign of things to come? Because we obviously discussed in the preview podcast about how much they could or wouldn't improve. So he says for him it's relegation. and he just doesn't see them being able to last the trend over the course of the season. So it's a bit of a worry for Bremen. So he did want me to point that out. His game to look out for next week, this is a real hipster's choice, Hoffenheim and Wolfsburg, which I must admit, it does leap off the page at me a little bit just because it's intriguing. So that's the one that he's gone through. And he also asked me to ask you something, Tom. He simply said about RB Leipzig. He said, could they spring a surprise and finish in the top half? Early doors suggest yes. They're talented. They've got a deep talent pool, attacking options, and a core midfield group. He said, I just wonder if Tom has got any thoughts on the RB setup.
I know a lot of people dislike them, as we've already gone through, but I like their system. You know what I'm like with loving teams that deploy their youth players, or not their youth players, but players of youth, and use them to their best abilities. They've signed Burke, who's obviously a lot of pundits criticised him for moving to Germany, and in my opinion, stuff him. Good for him. Go off and do your thing. Get game time in the top division, and he seems to be doing that. And I'm absolutely intrigued to see what happens with them, and I wish them the best of luck because I like a lot of their players, like Naby Keita and Sabitzer. So yeah, I hope that they will do well.
Yes, good show. I'm quite a fan of Sabitzer. I think he's a good little forward. So we signed him on FIFA. Not that means anything, but just like him. Okay, right. Well, that will do it for the Bundesliga. Obviously, if you do have any questions, you can just give Drew a tweet, and he will ping them across to me, the answers in email, and I'll bring them up each week. So although he's not here technically, he's still in the background lurking in the shadows. So do ping him a tweet, or indeed tweet at the FH podcast with the hashtag of Bundesliga, and we'll do our best. Right, let's move it on then, and we're just going to take a quick trip, as we like to do once a week, for the best of the rest. Right, this week's best of the rest. We kind of got one big fixture to focus on, and we're going to do that by having a little trip into Scotland, where this week the first Old Firm derby of a long time in the league took place between Glasgow Celtic, Glasgow Rangers, for those of you who are not familiar with the Scottish League, and it ended in quite a comprehensive victory for Celtic. Quite a comprehensive victory, that's probably a bit of an understatement really, a 5-1 victory. Moussa Dembele getting a hat-trick for Celtic, and Scott Sinclair and Armstrong with the others. One goal back for Joe Garner. Unfortunately, Philip Senderos, who us three will know quite well, sent off on his debut for Rangers, so not a happy start to his career for Rangers. Celtic, unsurprisingly, are top of the Scottish Premier League, 4 straight wins, comfortably, goal difference +10, you know the rest. Just looking at the rest of Scotland, this weekend in particular, Hearts are currently riding high in second. They got a 3-1 victory over Hamilton Accies. Rangers fall to third after their defeat. Ross County and St Johnstone also in the top 6 there, as are Dundee. Aberdeen continue their kind of mixed start to the season, so Ali won't be happy. 1-1 draw at home to Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Love that name, gotta love it. So that's where we are in the Scottish Premier League. Dropping down to the Scottish Championship, 5 games in there. We have got Hibs top of the table, 5 games played, 5 games won, goal difference of +9. They are flying top of the league. Queen of the South and Wraith Rovers occupy the top 3 positions, or the second and third. Dundee United are in 4th. Down the bottom, St Mirren, only 2 points from their first 5 games. So they're on the struggle. And very quickly in the Scottish League 1, Brecon City, Alloa Athletic, Livingston and East Fife for the top 4. Stenhouse Muir are marooned at the bottom on 1 point in 10th. And in the Scottish League 2, yes, such thing does exist. Forfar Athletic, I know all of their fans listening to this will be delighted to know that they've won all 5 of their first 5 games. Top of the league and flying, Clyde, Elgin and Arbroath make up the top 4. And Edinburgh City are sitting bottom on 1 point. They need clearly to drink some more Iron Brew. Right, I'm sure that'll upset our Scottish listeners. I do apologise.
Just alienated an entire nation.
Oh, come on, they love their brew.
You go through a nation every pod.
I know, but our Scottish listeners love it. I'm sure Ali would be fine with that. It's all good. It's
quite
all
a debut for Dembele, though.
Yes, yeah, he's quite a talent by all accounts, and Brendan Rodgers is one thing Brendan Rodgers is pretty good at is working with young players. So I would expect them to go on, and obviously Tom, they've got quite a big task ahead of them this week. Is it on Tuesday or Wednesday? It's Tuesday, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, you say big task, but after the weekend.
Well, yeah, naturally, yeah, just rock up and do an Alaves, or an Alves, I think that'll be quite the test for Celtic. But yeah, I mean, you expect them to win the Premier League in truth in Scotland, but when the Old Firm meet, it's always quite a big affair, and such is life. There's always a sending off as well. You can almost a guaranteed betting on a sending off in the El Clasico or the Old Firm derby. You'll usually get your money. So there you go. Right, okay. As usual, if you've got a league that you're desperate to hear about, just drop us a line, drop us a tweet, drop us an email, whatever it is. We will do our best to cover as many leagues as we can. We only really want to do one a week because our podcast would be 100 years long otherwise. But if there is a league that you want us to shine the spotlight on, we will do our very best. And we'll, of course, be back with another league next week. Right, let's move on then to another subject, and it is this week's Hipster's Choice. Right then, who have we pulled out of the draw to be this week's Hipster's Choice? Well, I can tell you, we've already mentioned him several times in this podcast already. He's caused quite a lot of attention in recent times after his big money move from the UK overseas. And this week's Hipster's Choice is one Oliver Burke. So what do we know about Oliver Burke? Well, his nickname is the Scottish Gareth Bale, so no pressure there. He is obviously a player for Red Bull Leipzig now. He's wearing the number 19 shirt. He's also Scotland's number 8. He's 19 years of age, born on April 7th, 1997. Sickening, I know. In Kirkcaldy in Scotland. He's 6'2" and approximately 163 pounds. He's a right-footed midfielder / winger, and he's a client of Adidas. He wears their X 16.1 boot range. So he's one of their clients. He is on Twitter, not verified, I should stress, but we think it's him, at Oliver Burke 55, Burke with an E. He's also on Instagram, Oliver J. Burke, so do look him up and stalk him, of course. You can, of course, find highlights of him on YouTube, which we will post in the coming days. So what do we know then? He's been compared to Gareth Bale, fast-tracked into the national squad and is linked to the transfer to some of the top clubs in Europe before becoming the most expensive ever Scottish player after only 13 starts for his club, obviously transferring into the German Bundesliga. Burke grew up in Melton Mowbray, who apparently make quite nice pies. After one season with the local club, aged 8, he joined Nottingham Forest Academy, where he developed over the next 9 years. He signed professional terms with Forest on September the 9th, 2014 at age 17, and he made his professional debut against Spurs on the 24th of September 2014, coming on as an 87th minute substitute. Shortly after, on February 24th, 2015, Burke was sent on a month's loan to Bradford in the English League One. He made only 2 appearances before coming back to Forest for the start of the 15-16 season. Burke played with the reserves until December, until he was called up for his first team match by the then coach Dougie Freedman. Made a total of 21 appearances in that season for Forest, scored 2 goals, his first coming on the 29th of December with a curling shot hit with the outside of his right foot, a sign of things to come maybe. His performances earned him a contract extension, a 4-year deal, but the team was suffering after managerial turmoil. Burke started this season in impressive form under their new coach Philippe Montagnier, scoring 3 goals in 6 matches. He notched a goal in the game of the season, a 4-3 win over Burton Albion on the opening day, and he continued his goal scoring form against Wigan with 2 more goals, and also against Leeds, scoring 4 goals in the 5 league games he played. In addition to the 4 goals, he provided an assist and has a pass success rate of 75.5, which is not bad, is it? 2 man of the match performances, according to WhoScored.com. His performance notably caught the eye of a few clubs in the Premier League, but also from abroad, and it was newly promoted Red Bull Leipzig in the German Bundesliga that he surprisingly signed a 5-year deal for undisclosed fee. Isn't that always the way? Reported to be in the region of 13 to 15 million pounds. It's quite a lot of money. He's exactly the sort of player we were looking for, said Leipzig sporting director Ralf Rangnick, after the 19-year-old Burke turned down a 5-year deal in August 2016, obviously at Forest at the time. We're delighted that we've been able to manage to lure such a talented player, put my teeth in, away from England. He's tall, incredibly quick, has lots of pace, and is a real promising player for the future. As for internationally, he has represented Scotland and actually England as well. He is eligible for. He's made 6 appearances, scoring on his debut for the under-19s, where he made the senior teams of Scotland, of course. And in his recent Scotland qualifier, he was playing in the 5-1 demolition in Malta. So he continues to be impressing for them. He's normally known in the under-21s, but it seems like he will stay in the first team now. He's very different from what one might think epitomises a modern-day winger, namely that they're usually sort of quite thin and tricky. He's quite tall and bulky, quite strong, and likes to look at the centre-forward position more than the winger, so he likes to come inside and play centrally as well. While he's strong and powerful on the ball, he has a deceptively quick turn of speed. There's a remarkable amount of close ball control in tight spaces, and his physical presence certainly helps this. He's shown an outstanding ability to use the outside of his foot, and apparently has Arsenal-esque technical ability at his disposal. Not my words, boys and girls. Don't shoot the messenger. As we mentioned earlier on in the podcast, he was down to or claimed the assist for Naby Keita's winner in his game for Leipzig at the weekend, which is rather nice. Delicious cross, so do look that out. And he came on in the 69th minute of that game, replacing Yusuf Poulsen, and apparently he kind of played in a right forward position, and in the 21 minutes he provided the assist for the winning goal, as we said, and had a pass success ratage there we go, of 81%, and was ranked the 3rd highest player for Leipzig in the game according to WhoScored.com. So there we go. There's some information to chew upon. Just very briefly, I just want to ask my panelists. We've already touched on him, chaps, already, but Tom, you've obviously mentioned it's good to have players going abroad and plying their trade. Do you expect we'll be hearing quite a lot more from him?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, he's in the perfect team, so he's in the perfect team to get chances. I think there was a story about this club that was a player was offered to them and was over the age of 24 or whatever it was, and they turned him down simply because of his age. And they like playing their youth players, and I hope he gets more chances to play. Obviously, he came on in the game against Dortmund, and I hope that he starts more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And John, obviously you mentioned Joe Hart going abroad, another Englishman abroad at the moment. Do you think it's something that could work? I mean, we saw the lad that Ross mentioned in the breakfast pod last night, the lad that went to Bayern Munich from, I think it was Tranmere. The guy's name escapes me.
I know who you mean.
You know the one I mean, don't you? Yeah, and obviously we've seen likes of Steve McManaman and Michael Owen go abroad, but they're more high-profile players with an established career. So do you think this is a calculated risk by Burke, or is it a really sort of standout move for him, much like Ryan Gould at Sporting Lisbon last year as well?
I don't think it's a bad move on his part. I think he's going to a club that have clearly got ambition, and I don't think they're quite in the fact that they want to be, in a couple of years' time, be challenging for the Bundesliga and then eventually into the Champions League. That really is their key that they're going for, and their part of that is developing young talent and having young players in the team. The surprising thing for me is the fact that Nottingham Forest didn't try and put in any kind of clause that they would get a higher amount of money for him, depending on appearances and goals scored. They didn't put in any sort of clause as a sell-on to get a percentage, as I expect if, the way he's talked about, and he certainly looks like he's got the ability, if he becomes anything like Gareth Bale, you would think eventually he would end up at a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or Bayern Munich, whoever, and it will be for a big fee, and Forest aren't getting any of the money for that. So I think for the player himself is a great move, and I think English and British players in general don't go and play abroad enough, because learning different continental style of football is very important for their development, and I think it actually improves them as players. But for Nottingham Forest, the club, I think they've really shot themselves in the foot, and I know a lot of the fans are really upset about the way the deal went through, because they have not got anywhere near the best they could get out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Completely agree. It seems like a really strange idea, like as you say, like not to do quote unquote a Chelsea with big buyback clauses or sell-on
Sell-on
clauses
fees, yeah, or anything like that.
buyback option.
A number of appearances and getting bonus payments, and yeah, just very, very strange. But yeah, I mean, I must admit, I haven't seen loads of him, but when I have seen him, he does look very impressive. He just looks like a naturally just brilliant athlete and just very good footballer. So yeah. The size of the sheer fact he's that big already, and how quick he is for someone that size, must be an absolute nightmare to play against.
Yeah, totally agree. On the English Breakfast podcast, which myself and Ross do every week, Ross is doing Burke Watch for us. So not Bird Watch, Burke Watch. So we will kind of keep across his progress, just because it's nice, like John said, to keep an eye on players abroad and see how they're progressing. So we will keep across his career. And if you haven't already, do check out Ross's piece on Scouting Report, which I think is on outsidoftheboot.com. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Do have a look at that, because Ross knows his Championship football, and trust me, he says this kid is every bit the new Bale in his opinion. So when he fails and flops, you can all have a go at Ross. No, I think Ross
it's not just us. Real journalists have said it as well.
Yes, yeah, and of course Ross is training to be a real journalist as well. Yeah. So yeah, credit where due, and do give that article a look. Superb. Right, okay, we'll leave Mr. Burke behind then, and we'll finish our show as we do every week. It's listeners' questions. It's the onion bag. Right, now, gentlemen, we're going to start with something really bizarre. Now, I know this is a little bit 1996 AOL.com, but we've had an email.
What's AOL?
Exactly, you would never know. You weren't born. We've had an email, boys and girls, a proper real-life email. It wasn't delivered by pigeon, but I got a ping through. I was like, "Oh, look at that! It's an email." It comes to us from a gentleman it goes by the name of Kris H. I believe his surname is pronounced.
You've emailed yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, yeah. No, it's genuinely not me. I believe his surname is pronounced Hoyuk or Hyuk. Please write in, Kris, please, because I've butchered that. I would imagine he's a gentleman of possibly German descent, because he says simply this: "Hello, I've been listening to the Football Hipsters for many months now. Great coverage." Thank you, Kris. We'll put the check in the post there. I wanted to point something out. I found odd on the last podcast regarding Wolfsburg and the departure of Bas Dost. I was waiting for the mention of the revitalised Mario Gomez as an apt replacement, a mention which never came. Sad face. What's the deal? Don't tell me you guys forgot about this one. Winky face. All the best, Kris. Well, thank you very much, Kris, for your email. And I bet you thought I'd forgotten you when I didn't reply to you. But no, I got your email. Don't you worry. And it's a very fair point, isn't it, gentlemen? Mario Gomez. John, what do you reckon? Because obviously he played a bit in Fiorentina, didn't he, last, was it 18 months ago? Had a sort of a spell in Italy, and a bit like Miroslav Klose, isn't it? He's always got goals, and he scored goals for Bayern Munich. So it's quite a coup for Wolfsburg, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a decent signing. I think first thing to say is that it's clearly Drew's fault that it wasn't mentioned, and because Drew's not here to defend himself, that
throw him under the bus.
Out perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But no, I like Mario Gomez. It was strange that there was not many people in for him, because as you say, he was at Fiorentina. His contract was running out. He spent last season on loan at Besiktas. He did very well there. He got 20-something odd goals, I think it was. Okay, he's not the toughest league in the world, but you still got to score them. And I think he was a free agent in the end.
He was.
But there wasn't really a scramble to get him. Okay, he's older now. He's 31, 32, is he? 31, I think.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Go on.
So he's a very experienced player, but I think you obviously have to put him in a system where you're going to get the best out of him. What Bas Dost was very good at Wolfsburg was the sort of fox in the box and quick movement, that kind of thing. Right, Gomez might not necessarily give you the fast movement in the box, but if you put the ball in there, he's going to get on the end of it and he's going to score you goals. So I think it's a decent acquisition. How much game time you get out of him, I don't know, because of his age, and he has had a few problems with injuries. So I assume it's sort of a calculated risk. They can bring him on. They know he's going to put in performances, hopefully when they need it, and they can rest him when they have to. But yeah, it seems like a good, sensible signing to me. He's a very good player.
Absolutely linked quite heavily with Barcelona. I know a lot of Spanish journalists were saying before Alcácer signed. I think a lot of quite well-placed Spanish journalists were saying he would have been a good fit at Barca for a season. But who knows? Who knows?
He's a player you can bring on and play a different style because he's very good at holding the ball up. But he's actually quite a technically gifted player. I know it's the old cliche. He's got good feet for a big man, but he actually does. I still don't know why that's a saying at all.
No, a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's pick out one for Tom and see what we've got here. This is a good question, actually, from a chap called Jerry Johnston, who's a new name, I must admit. I've not seen Jerry before, so welcome, Jerry, if you're listening. He wants to know, Tom, what's your opinions on Luis Enrique's rotation policy at Barcelona, I presume?
Good question. I know the bloke. I had to write an Arsenal preview for the season for him, so he's a nice guy. So
cool.
It's good to see he's listening. But in terms of the rotation policy, I mean, people say when it comes to the game against Alaves, it's like, oh yes, Messi, Suarez, and that didn't play. I'm sorry, but if you've got a team with Neymar and Thuram and Alcácer and Rakitic and Busquets, you should be beating a team that is newly promoted to La Liga. Luis Enrique is well within his rights to rotate that squad, especially considering last season where their squad was rather thin due to the Club World Cup commitments, and that meant that in the Champions League's latter stages, when they lost to Atletico Madrid, they were knackered, and their fitness was just on their last legs. So it makes sense for them to now, when they've got more depth, to rotate. So. And they brought in extra players and extra positions, like they now got Digne at left back, and obviously they brought in Alex Vidal last season. So they've got depth. So there's no reason why they can't rotate. So people saying that, they should have played their first team in every league game, they can afford to. They can't. They've still got Champions League commitments. Yes, they've got to play Celtic. I know Celtic aren't the best team in the world, but you got a commitment and you want to win that game. So rotating is what gets you through the 60, even 70 games that they nearly had last season. And I have no problem with what he did. It's just down to the players to win the game on the pitch, and they just couldn't do that.
Fair point. Very good answer, sir. Thank you for that question, Jerry. Keep them coming. We had a couple from Jimmy. I'll just answer one of them quickly. He wanted to know from Drew what he'd heard about the controversy surrounding RB Leipzig. We've kind of covered that in the last roundups. Obviously, a lot of it's to do with money, sponsorship, sort of a plastic club.
They're not the big thing about it is that all German clubs are like sporting clubs owned by the fans as such. Not exactly owned by the fans, but they've got real history, and they started as a club owned thing, like you would like your local sports club you go to. That's kind of how they all created. Whereas RB Leipzig is a manufactured team that
franchise, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, but essentially it's just it's Red Bull owned, and it's been going 5-6 years or something like that. And they've just had all the money and just pumped into it. So it's totally against everything else that is in German football. So that's why they're so sort of despised.
I get why that people don't like it for that reason, but to be honest, I haven't got a single problem with it. One, because we see it happen all across Europe. We've seen it happen with Manchester City in the Prem. We've seen it happen with teams like Crawley, where money's been pumped into the club, and it hasn't worked. They've done it the right way.
I think the difference is, whereas Man City have obviously been a club that's been established for over 100 years, Leipzig have been in existence for, I don't know, not that long, probably less than 10 years, something like that, as an official club. So I think that's the biggest issue that people have with it. Yeah. It's there was kind of rules about fan ownership in the Bundesliga, and they've basically skirted around all of them, like to the nth degree as much as they possibly could. Yeah. And that's the biggest issue they've really got with it. But maybe we'll get Drew to we'll add to his workload and maybe get him to write something about it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, we should, because I was going to mention blogs actually at the end of the pod. So good shout there. But that would be certainly a debation point. Debation. I've made up a word there. Debation. Not what you think you heard, listeners. I promise. Moving on very quickly. Dog at the Dorch. Tom, he wants to know, where do you think Valencia will end up this season? I presume he doesn't mean the Segunda Liga.
Well, you never know, to be fair. It's hard to tell. I thought last season, when they kept on losing, they would eventually push up, but they didn't. And they finished in the bottom half. And it's, at the moment, after they've lost 3 games, you just got to think they have to win their next match, and it's going to come down to that every week. If they don't win again, they have to win the next match. Every game's going to be a must-win game, but I was listening to obviously our previous guest Graham Hunter does his own podcast, and he was interviewing Phil Neville, and they were talking about how that when Phil Neville was saying about when he walked into the club, then people looked at him and just looked at him as if he'll be gone soon, sort of thing, as if it's just the culture that they're so used to players and managers coming in and out. They just need to establish some stability at that club and sort it out, because there's a mentality within the club itself, not just down to the players, all the way up to the ownership and the directors and agents, and there's obviously a big influence by Jorge Mendes in that club. That needs to be sorted out for them to get back on track and back to the glory days when they were winning titles and whatnot with Rafa Benitez. So I think they will be safe, but I think it'll be a struggle again. And there's so much to sort out. You could do an entire podcast on it.
You could, yeah. There is so much to go into, and certainly one I'm sure we'll come back to. And once they've stunk up the league, or of course changed everything around, we shall have to wait and see. One for me, actually, Jimmy, at Edenguna, our good pal Jimmy. He wanted to ask me, Lyon have shipped 7 goals. That's shipped with a P. 7 goals in 2 games, down to the loss of Umtiti or larger problems. That's a good question, actually, Jimmy. You never fail to disappoint. Sorry, you never fail. Is that right? You never fail to disappoint? No, that's really wrong, isn't it? You never fail to ask good questions, is what I meant to say. It's been a long day, Jimmy. I do apologise. But no, it's a great question.
Not questioning your sexual ability whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. No. Yeah, always fail to disappoint. Always achieve disappointment.
Just answer it.
Yeah, please. Let's just move on. No, it's a great question, Jimmy. And I do think Lyon are a worse side without Samuel Umtiti. He's such a good defender. Tom will see over the course of the season, I'm sure, at Barcelona, you'll see him grow as a footballer, I think, under Luis Enrique in that style. But he's just such a composed, sort of calming influence on a defence. And he reads the game very, very well, which is, I think, probably why Barcelona have gone for him, with that ability to do almost what Piqué's been doing. I think long term is probably what they'll do, the ability to step out of defence with the ball but read the game out. And he's a supreme athlete as well, pacey, quick across the ground, and a big lad to boot. So losing him is a blow. They replaced him what they thought was like for like in Nicolas Nkulu, who I've got on record as saying I thought was a really good option for even an Arsenal-style club when he was available on a free from Marseille last summer. He's 26 years old, Cameroon international, but he's not been great for the last couple of seasons, mainly because Marseille were terrible, and obviously that affected his form. I think he'll come good. The problem is he's often partnered with Mapu Yanga and Biwa, who, if you ask Newcastle fans, not the best defender, if I'm honest. And defence is all about partnerships, as we know. And I just think that Nkulu is kind of building that partnership. And I think until that's settled, this could continue. It was actually Dicabi who partnered Yanga Biwa at the weekend for Lyon, and that didn't work out very well either. So it's hard to know until Bruno Genesio gets his squad sort of 100% settled and comfortable. It's hard to know who their best defence is. They've also got the young lad Mamana, the Argentine who signed in the summer, to come in. I think he'll be a very good composed player as well, but he's not fit at the moment. So and less said about Rafael da Silva, the ex-United player, the better. So tough one, but really good question that, Jimmy. And at least they've got Anthony Lopez still in goal, who is still one of the best goalkeepers in France. So yes, excellent question. Right, we'll finish with one for John, which comes in from Chris Nielsen, and he wants to know a little bit more about Luis Muriel, who you mentioned in your roundup, the Sampdoria striker. Been quite impressive this season. He asks whether he would suit Arsenal. Let's expand that slightly and just ask whether you think he would be good enough or best suited to a higher level club.
It's a very tough question. There was a lot of hype about him when he first turned up in Italy. Signed for Udinese back in 2010, and after his first season, he won Best Young Revelation, or Best Young Player, basically, of the year, along with Stefan El Shawari. Since then, it hasn't really panned out for him. Had a couple of loans, Granada and Lecce, then stayed at Udinese. He was not so much in Di Natale's shadow, but obviously Di Natale was the main man at Udinese and scored a lot of the goals. So that possibly held him back a little bit. At Samp, Samp is a club that's been in a real mess. The big difference is this season they've got some players who can give him the bullets to possibly get the goals. They got Juricic on loan from Benfica, the Serbian midfielder, who's talked about quite highly. They also got Dennis Praet. Is it Praet, the Belgian?
Dennis Praet, yes, for Anderlecht. Yeah.
Yes, they got him in as well, which was a really big signing for Samp. Very impressive signing. And they've also got Cassano there as well, who, despite his age, he can still do it and produce some brilliant through balls. So I think this season is a big one for him. You see sometimes he has an amazing first touch or finish first time, and he's been compared to players like Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo before, in particular, because of that great finishing. But then other times he just goes missing in games. He's very, very quick as well, very rapid. So he's only 25, which isn't hugely old for a striker, so he may be one of those players who develops late, but I think this season could be quite a big one because he's now got a midfield behind him who might be able to give him that ammunition to get the goals. So if he does very well, then maybe he could get a move somewhere else. But there's been so many clubs linked with him in the past. Arsenal had been one who looked at him before. Manchester United looked at him. Barcelona did when he first went to Udinese. So he's very highly regarded. It's just never quite clicked. So he really needs that level of consistency. If he gets it this season, then maybe he'll get his move.
He's definitely one to watch, isn't he? Like you say, he's one of those that his talent stands out. You always notice him in a game, but then he can drift as well. It's one of those that
he could be just one of those sort of strikers who develops late and doesn't really hit his heights until sort of 27, and then all of a sudden explodes, and that happens sometimes. I think that's the one thing with players. People sometimes are too quick to write them off. And he just might be that type. But for Samp's sake, anyway, I hope he does well this season because they've certainly got a better midfield this year.
Yeah, there'll always be a place for him at Lorient. It'll be fine. Good. Okay. Right. Well, I think we will draw a line there. Thank you to anyone that asked a question. If we didn't get to your question, we apologise. I think we did cover them all that were sent in this week. But as with every week, it depends on time how many we can get answered. So if we have missed your question, we do apologise. The best thing to do, if you've got a question, if it's early in the week, drop it in our DM box, because then we can shelve it for later. Or indeed, like Kris did, drop us an email. I will be on the emails. You can email us at the footballhipsterspodcast@gmail.com, so do that. Or at the FH Podcast to send us a tweet. Just make sure you use the hashtag of Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga or Liga, so we know who or what you're asking about. Get them in early, and we usually do a tweet sort of around about halfway through the day on a Monday. So ping us that if you have any questions. 2 other bits of business, and we'll get out of your ears for another week. First thing is our SoundCloud GoFundMe page. Yes, that's GoFundMe. We have achieved enough of our target to afford SoundCloud. So with thanks to all of you that have donated, we really appreciate that. If you have got a few pennies and you want to donate towards basically keeping the lights on, as the saying goes, we still have running costs, websites to pay for, URLs. We have to pay the mice that eat the cheese, that feed the cats. No, in all seriousness, we do have running costs, and I'm sure John would be happy to run through the cost of running a website and a podcast if you really want him to, but we won't bore you to tears. So if you do have a few pennies, every penny helps. Do visit our GoFundMe page. The link's on our Twitter. And if you've got some spare cash, we appreciate it. But thank you ever so much to those who donated. And it should be, John, we're hoping SoundCloud for next week, aren't we? We should hopefully have it all.
Yeah, should all be sorted by then. And basically everything will be exactly the same. You'll still be able to find us all in the same places: Stitcher, iTunes, everything else. All that will stay the same. Will just be available on SoundCloud as well.
Exactly. And if you go to SoundCloud, we have a page already. So if you want to go and subscribe now in advance of going live, please feel free. Hopefully that will be up and running by next week. So yes, we'll put 10p in Danny and kick him up the arse and get him to do stuff. And of course, our thanks to Kat, Tavar and to Kelly, who obviously are not part of the live podcast, but do an awful lot behind the scenes. So thank you to them as well. And the final thing is, John, you and I will be back on Thursday. No rest for the wicked.
Yes. Back on Thursday, European football.
Absolutely. The Champions League and the Europa League return. Obviously, we briefly touched on a few of the fixtures, the Celtic, Barcelona, PSG, Arsenal. Some quite big games this week. So John and I will be back. We might even have Ross with us, depending on his schedule, because obviously Southampton are in Europa League this year, as are, Man United, Feyenoord, Schalke, some big sides in Europa League this year. So stay across that. And of course, who's it? Spanish teams in there this year, Tom? Who's in the Sevilla in the Champions League this year? So who's
Sevilla,
gone?
Barca and Real and Atletico in the Champions League, Villarreal, Bilbao and Celta Vigo in Europa League.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, they'll be hoping their form improves. So, and I'm sure, John, you'll be keeping a close eye on SAS.
Yes, very excited to see how they do, and obviously Inter in there as well, and all the excitement.
Big clubs, big names, big games will be across them all. So, yes, if you like what we do tune into the Satchel. We normally record late after the final games on the Europa League on a Thursday, and usually, scheduling allowing, we usually get them out, or the podcast out that night. So do stay tuned to our Twitter and our feeds. Right, that's it for us again for another week then. Thank you very much to my guests, to the absent Drew. Everybody wave. Hi, Drew. And, of course, to Tom and to John. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Cheers.
No worries.
And we have been the Football Hipsters, a podcast. Keep your beers strong and your glasses trendy. We will return for the Satchel on Thursday, for the English breakfast on Sunday, and this time next week for our weekly look back at European football. So enjoy your football. We will speak to you very soon.